Hello and welcome to PlayStation Racer. My name is Mitchell Morgan and today I have got a race of all races. Today, the authors of the game have introduced dynamic weather in sport mode and it's horrendous. I had a race that really has everything in it. So we're at the 24-hour Le Mans racing circuit without the chicane. So we're drafting down the full straight. We're in a GR4 car, it's 5 laps, and with the rain, through all sorts of newness, uncertainty, every corner was different. And in this video, we've got thrills, spills, a real comeback, and then it all happens in the last few corners. It was incredible. I was in the F-Type GR4. I went for the Jaguar because I wanted something that was a little bit slower and a little bit quicker through the, or slower down the straight, but quicker through the corners, and something that I felt that I could handle a little bit. And it was just an insane race. So let's get into it. So I've run a couple of dry races on this track, but this was going to be the first wet race that we were going to have. As I said, we are in second place behind Kenvelo Boy, and I'm looking to try and get through this twisty section as best I can, and certainly behind him. So yeah, let's just see how this goes. Now during this video I might go quiet. Also when we're going down the main back straight, I might leave you to fast forward it if it's getting you a little bit boring, or I might actually speed the video up. I don't tend to like speeding the video up too much, so I might leave you to just scrub through. So it looks like we're trying to make a move into this first corner, but Kenvelo Boy has got the inside line, and I'm thinking at this stage, well, let's just back off and let's just see if we can just get behind him for the straight. I've also just noticed that rain that is coming in. I can't put it on the video at the moment, but I've got the rain radar on, so I'm not actually aware that that other car was there, because I did want to watch the rain, and that's enabled Kenvelo Boy just to get away a little bit more than I would have liked. As you can see, the car behind Seth is right on me. I've got a half a second penalty, and I'm pretty much out of the slipstream of Kenvelo Boy at this stage going down this long straight. We've pretty much got a train of cars behind us, as you can see as I scroll back. We've got a few people with penalties as well, but it's all going to be about this first corner. We're back on my car now. This first corner after the main straight. Now I know where I normally brake. I do this track all the time for grinding, and it's in the wet, but I'm doing it in the BMW VGT. If you want to see that video, I'll link to it in the description below. It's a good way of making 825,000 credits, but I am against the AI, not real world drivers. In this race we are real world drivers, and you can see the spray coming off of that Veyron right now. This is getting some real water down on the track, and the car is going like we've got this corner to negotiate, and now I'm thinking, what am I going to do about this corner? I've got cars stacking up behind me at the moment. I've got cars pushing me. I also need to make sure that we actually get it slowed down. So I do brake a little bit early. I'm watching when Kenvelo Boy brakes, and everybody is sliding off. I'm completely looked up. Everybody is sliding off. In fact, it gets worse if I just come back a bit. I mean, you can just see all of these cars that have gone off. I mean, at the moment, I'm still trying to get myself sorted out, but you've got cars in the barriers. They're still sliding. We're back to 10th now, 11th now. Absolute carnage. So let's just come back up to, I've got to find myself now. I am way back down in 13th. We did manage to get out of all of that. Really annoyed with myself. I did brake nice and early, but everything was just, well, nobody had any idea what it was going to be like going down into that first corner. Remember, this is my first ever wet race, and we are on slick, soft tyres. So behind me I've got a car that's probably a second or two behind me at the moment, so I'm in a bit of space, but we are going to need to make up some time. What sure why that car is parked in the middle of the road. It looks like Chris Cool is just thrown it off, and I was trying to avoid him, so I've gone a little bit deep into this one as well, trying not to turn it around. I did learn not to put it into first gear when you're trying to get out of trouble. When you're in rain like this, you want to try and stay up in higher gears if you can. That Toyota in front is really squirming around on the brakes, and I did bump him there. Again, I'm sliding as well. We're both struggling to get through that corner. And again, I've learning, I didn't learn my lesson, but learning to keep the gears up to higher levels 2 and 3 to try and get the traction. It's all about getting traction when you've stopped in this weather. You can see the spray coming up off of the cars in front, and we've got a real gaggle of cars. If you look at the map, everybody is bunched up, nobody's getting away. A massive spin there for Pate. I don't know if that's how you say his name, but massive spin there into the barrier. That's not going to help. We actually get up the inside of Quirox. We've got some really difficult names for me to pronounce in this race. Def 22 ahead has got a 3-second penalty, but I'm looking to see how Chris Cool's doing here. He's got some good traction through here, but I want to try and keep my line so we don't drift too wide on that corner, and keeping my line enables me to get up the inside of Chris Cool. That was a really nice move to get us up into 10th position. Remember, it's as wet as you like, and we're on slick tyres. We've got a few cars diving into the pits for slicks. 1, 2, possibly 3. We've got a Lamborghini off. We had a couple of more moves through there, up into 8th place. Just trying not to take too much curve. Got that line a little bit wrong, which lets the Citroen in front of us get away a little bit. Now, I am used to running this track in these sorts of conditions, not quite this wet, but in these sorts of conditions, but in the BMW VGT, and that is easier than this to drive. This Jaguar is a little bit all over the place. We've got Monomar's just gone off a little bit there, but I've gone too deep, and thankfully he ghosted, and I've joined the track, and immediately just trying to get on the back of those cars, I've spun it round. Up into second gear to try and get a rejoin, but even in second gear this car is just spinning. This is a lesson in how not to join a track in the wet. I mean, I'm going to put myself dead last here. Panic is setting in right now. That's what you call blind panic mixed with no skill whatsoever. Crazy join. I mean, talk about letting the guys get away. Crazy. At this point, I think that the pack is about 15 seconds down the road, and we're really now into a case of, do we just jack this one in, reset it, and do another race? And I thought, no, look, we've got a drying line here. It's still really greasy, and I throw it out wide there, and then another visit to the barrier. So it's still a case of having to keep these tyres in the drying line, and now we've just let Dave Lister and Karski through, so we're now dead last. A place that I have been familiar with over this past week, but you can see that we've got a drying line, but it is still damp on either side, and we've got to keep off these white lines and keep in the dry patch. Again, I'm just a little bit over on the wet patch here, but this is now a case of what can we salvage from this race. I decided to stick with it purely because there are still quite a few people that are throwing their cars off the track. Secondly, it's still pretty dark, and I'm thinking that it could rain again, and if it starts to rain just after those guys have gone through past the pits, I could dive in and put intermediates on, or wets even, depending on what we need. Again, I can't put the radar on at the moment in this video mode, but I have got the wet radar on, and at the moment the radar is completely black. It's showing nothing at all. So if that is the case, then we've got a few cars in here that have got intermediate tyres. Now, we could have a few cars that will rage quit, we could have a few cars that crash off, plus we've got the intermediate racers, which should be slower, especially when I get my tyres in the zone and warmed up. So we're going to continue to run this one. Now again, coming down into this corner, my mind is scrambled. Where am I going to brake? I'm braking really early for that one. It's still a lot more greasy than I thought, but we made the apex quite nicely there. Get the power down, and at this point you can just see Dave Lister over the horizon of that corner, and I'm thinking, you know what, I am actually catching these guys. Looking at the map, everybody is bunched up. Can't really see where the people are going round, but it does look like one or two people are having moments in there. But we are definitely catching this pack, and nobody in this race is really getting away. So if we can get on the back of them, then there is a chance that we might be able to salvage something from this. I did get a little bit better at that corner. I promise you, that one was a bit hairy. We went in there really deep, and it is, even though we've got a drying line here, this is still pretty greasy. You can see to the left and the right of the track that we've got that dark wet line. The curves are wet, the water's sitting on top of the white lines. So it's really a case of picking my lines, making sure that we don't accelerate too quickly. And you can see there we've now got a couple of cars in the distance that we're chasing down. Another yellow flag, so somebody else has had a moment. Do we get to see what's happened? Doesn't look like it. Don't go too deep. So we're catching up with Dave Lister really quickly. He's clearly had a moment. So up the inside, a nice clean move on Dave Lister. He's obviously a Red Dwarf fan, I guess, with a name like that. Was he Dave Lister? I can't remember. I'm going to look it up. I know he was Lister, but there we go. Anyway, back to the race. So we're coming up for the end of lap 2. We're in 13th place, and I hate ending up 13th. And we are clearly catching these cars in front. Now, they haven't gone in and changed their tyres. So those guys that came in and are on intermediates, well, they're going for it again. Now, I do know that the intermediates are pretty reasonable on the BMW VGT. At this point, with a drying track, I stick with inters and still going pretty well. So again, I'm not quite sure how quickly I'm going to be chasing these guys down. This really is another massive unknown, but we've got more yellow flags, which is giving me a lot of hope that we might be able to just pick off one or two of these guys. And again, looking at the map in the top right of the screen, we've still got a gaggle of cars. There's one or two cars that are starting to get away, but it still is pretty bunched up. And you can see here that I'm chasing down Creox and Kenvelo Boy. Remember, Kenvelo Boy was the car that we started behind and that we followed off on the first corner. Now, everything's going to kick off at the end of this video with Kenvelo Boy. And I don't know whether he felt that I ran him off at that first corner. You and I know I was nowhere near him. I had nothing to do with him going off on that first corner. But keep that in the back of your mind for when we get to the end of this race. For now, I am drafting Creox and not really gaining very much on him at all. This Jaguar is way too slow downhill. It's the wrong car to be in by every stretch of the imagination. I picked it not necessarily for this long straight, but for the corners, which turned out to be a good thing, because I did have a really fun end to the race, but it certainly was a problem with this long straight. So we are catching him ever so slowly, and now I'm thinking about this corner at the bottom and how I'm going to brake, where I'm going to brake. The last thing I want to do is to run into the back of that Supra. Now, he's trying to break the draft. I'm going to do a video on drafting in this race, because I got caught out big time in the first couple of races where I was bump drafting at the C and D driver rating levels. You really don't want to be doing that. People don't understand the concept, and they start sort of bumping you back. And I have seen cars weaving around on that back straight to try and break the toe and the slipstream. You don't want to be doing that in this race, and I will do another video, which I'll probably link to at the end of this one, on that, hopefully later today. We're trying to stick on the back of this Supra at the moment. You can see there's a few cars up front. Big puff of smoke, or was that a puddle? Not quite sure, so I did back off a bit there. He broke really early there, caught me out big time, and unfortunately I did catch him. I went a little bit wide, and I'm just waiting here to let him through That was clearly my fault. Even though he broke early, I need to be able to react and to anticipate that. So I've given him back the place. I've given him plenty of room for that corner. That's the apology. And I felt pretty bad. And yeah, now we just need to settle down and see how we're going. Got a gap behind me, which is quite nice. So all I need to concentrate is catching a Supra. And I am pretty quick through here, and throughout the race I start to get quicker. He's broken early again, or braked early again, as I had thought he might do. Left the door open a little bit, so we put it up the inside. Tarkowski's had a massive moment through there, so we've managed to take another car. So that's basically 2 cars in 2 corners, and with a drying track, this Jaguar comes to life through here. We're up to 10th now, and really going for it. Trying to push. The lap times are not really very representative. We've got a 5:05 and a 5:03, which are really terrible. A lot of the top racers are doing 4-minute laps, so we're a minute off the pace. Although this has been wet, that's going to slow things down significantly. Just being a little bit careful through here. I want to get a good exit to see if we can catch up with Kenvelo Boy, my nemesis up ahead. Behind, we've got plenty of room to Tarkowski, so I'm quite happy. And again now at the start of lap 4, this is really sort of settled down, the track is drying out, and we're really going for it. You can see how much more confidence I've got than Kenvelo Boy through this little complex. The Veyron is not overly quick, I found. I did try running it earlier on. I don't find it to be overly quick through the twisty parts, although it's monstrous down the straight. So my aim here is to push as hard as I can to get on the back of that Veyron to try and get a toe down this long straight. And unfortunately, at this point, I think I'm about 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds off the back of that Veyron. And I'm not quite sure whether I did get a slipstream. I might have got a very, very slight slipstream. But he can be doing 160 mile an hour by now, and I'm only doing 151, so he's pulling away from me all the way down here. My only saving grace is that I've got nobody behind me. Gabtrito, if that's how you say it, in the, I think it's in a Huracan, he's miles away, miles behind. So I'm in no man's land at the moment. No pressure from the back, chasing from the front, and you know, we really want to get back on the back in Kenvelo Boy. He started in pole position, he's in 9th now, so he must be quick. He must be angry at throwing it off at that first corner and having a torrid time getting out of that gravel trap like me and right down the order. So as we come around this corner, we've got the overhead gantry that we're watching for to mark the beginning of this slow down process. This is where I start to think about where my braking zone is. You've got 300 board, 200 board, 100 board. Where do we start? And normally I'm braking about another 50 to 100 yards there, a little bit deep that time. So just trying to find where the braking zone is in these GR4s. Very much different to the car that I'm used to running. I've got a ½ second penalty to serve, which we will serve in a few corners time. So for now, just really looking at Kenvelo Boy and getting the times down, and just trying to get on him as we go through this little complex. Now in the BMW, I normally go flat through this corner and then bury it as soon as we get it straight, and I'm starting, just a little dab of brake there, I'm starting to get the confidence to do that in this particular car. And you can see how much time that we've made up on the Veyron through that single corner. Need to make this one good. That's not too bad. Just missed the barrier on the exit. That was blooming close. My heart was in my mouth when we got to that point, but we got that ½ second penalty. But it looks like, I didn't see that Kenvelo Boy had a penalty, but he seemed to slow there, and I don't seem to have lost too much time. So this is starting to look spicy. We're catching Kenvelo Boy. Chris Cook is only a little way further up the road. Need to be careful on that corner. Went a little bit wide and had to back out of it a little bit, which is messed up this little section. It's compromised this section a little bit. And again, a little bit wide there. Maybe I'm getting a little bit of dirty air from the Veyron now, which is unsettling the car a bit. Don't want to go wide here. If you go onto those hatchings, those yellow hatchings on the right hand side there, you're into a big penalty. So during the race, I'm being overly cautious through there, as am I with the chicane. Definitely trying not to cut these after having penalties in previous races, and we're really on the back of these two now. They have a tangle. I've really tried to miss Chris Cool there. I did actually manage to miss him, no penalty or anything, but that was heart in the mouth moment, and it has put us right on the back of Kenvelo Boy. Now, do I make a move into this corner, or do I hang back and try and use him for the slipstream to try and get me closer to the pack? I decided to do the latter. I decided to sit behind him, even though I'm a lot quicker than he is through here. I decided to sit behind him and wait. I want to try and stay with him so that when we're going down the straight, he can pull me along. I can try and get that little bit of extra speed out of the Jag and just see if we can then get closer to the pack, so I can start to pick a few off as we go through the twisty section. But unfortunately, as this corners start to get into the faster corners, he's pulled away from me again. He's quicker than I am through that last part, but I think this time we might have just got the very tail end of the slipstream. And you can see he's moving around to try and break the slipstream. It would be so much better if he was just to keep it in a straight line, let me get onto the back of him. I can then give him a nudge, which then speeds him up. He would then pull me further down the road, and between the two of us, we could get on the back of this pack ahead. There are places to be had here, but as you can see, he's going left and right and left and right. I'm doing the same. The weaving is pointless in this race. It's all about front drafting down this straight. So again, as we come to this fast right-hander, again, I'm thinking about braking zones. I really do not want to overshoot. Where is Kenvelo Boy going to be braking? What's happening with the 2 or 3 cars up ahead? Are they going to have a coming together as they go into that corner at the same time? So we come underneath the gantry and we're already thinking about the braking zone, and this time I'm leaving a little bit wider and wider. That's my normal braking zone, bearing the brake pedal, using the gears, getting it turned in. Just about managed that one. That was another heart in the mouth moment. I really thought that I'd left my braking a little bit too late and gone a bit too deep, but we got away with that one. Sitting in 9th place at this time, bearing in mind we were dead last by some considerable margin. We have chased down this Veyron and we continue to chase him down. We've got Mollomar ahead. He seems to be in a battle with another car as well. Watching for the turn in here, pretty much flat through there, not a lot of brake. Kenvelo Boy's really thrown it off. There's another car off as well, it's just joining. Now again, whether Kenvelo Boy thought that I had punted him off there, even though we were nowhere near, I don't know. But just remember that moment as well, when we get to the end of this final lap. So now we're chasing down Nolomitz. Looks like he's in the Lamborghini and catching him pretty quickly. That's for 7th place. Now this, I was feeling really good at this point. I mean, I have got a 1-second penalty to serve, which is a bit disappointing. He went a little bit wide there. Yes, we did actually clang doors a little bit on the way through there, but the door opened up and I just have to take that. If we want to get anywhere up the order, we've really got to go for it. And I am pushing this Jaguar as hard as I can right now, up to 7th place, and we're still seeing people in front and we're still seeing people going off. Well, that's Moonberger in the Citroen gone off, so that's another place made. Up to 6th now. We're coming down into the chicane and I really don't want to throw it off, so I'm going to just take it a little bit cautiously. Oh, what happened there? Did I lose that all on my own, or did I get punted? It felt like I had a nudge. If I've thrown that off myself, I'm going to be so annoyed. Down into 9th place. We let the Citroen through. Down into 9th. That was quite some race. That was amazing at the end. But what happened at the end? Let's just take that back a bit. Come back a bit to here. Now I'm going to come back to Kenvelo Boy. So he's behind me at this precise moment. Again, we're on the last lap. I put it up the inside of the Lambo. Kenvelo Boy got it a little bit sideways there. So at the moment we've got the Lamborghini between us. Oh, Kenvelo Boy is all over the place. Oh, so he makes a beautiful move through there, which puts him onto the back of me. Oh, we get a little nudge there. He's having a look. Now I am a bit cautious. I do hit the brakes. Oh, I got punted. See the damage? That is a clear hard punt. Sends me round. The Lamborghini goes through. Kenvelo Boy doesn't care. Straight on. Okay, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. I feel a little bit better for that. So, what a race. We started in second position. We dropped right the way to the back of the pack by some considerable margin. We were way off the last, or the person in front of us, so the second from last, and then we pulled that one back. I would claim a 6th, 7th position for there. That really wasn't fair. I think that was pretty good to get up to that position, but unfortunately 9th was the final position for me, and my first ever real wet race. You know, remember, we're against real players. Normally when I'm grinding, I'm playing against easy AI people. These are real human beings really racing, so really pleased with that. And yeah, whew, quite a race. Hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, then please consider subscribing. If you are a revisitor, then welcome back. And I look forward to seeing you on another one coming very soon. In the meantime, stay well, take care, see you soon, bye bye.